Helen looked at the guest list and felt panic rising inside her. 23 people, and those were just the closest relatives. Her mother-in-law had insisted that they celebrate New Year's Eve with the whole family in their new apartment. You understand, you now have the largest apartment among all our relatives. Plus, it's time to show everyone how you've settled in. Her mother-in-law's words rang in her ears like an insistent alarm clock. Renovation, mortgage, loans. Helen ran her hand across her forehead, trying to quell the headache. For 3 months, she and Serge lived on sandwiches, saving every penny to finish setting up the apartment by winter. And now, Serge, she called to her husband, who was engrossed in watching football in the next room. We need to talk seriously. What now? He responded without taking his eyes off the screen. Serge, something in her voice made him hit pause. What's wrong? I'm watching the match. And I'm looking at your mother's list minus 23 people, Serge, 23 people. Yeah, he shrugged, an ordinary family holiday. Ordinary family holiday? Helen felt irritation boiling inside her. For 3 years, they celebrated every holiday apart, he with his family, she with hers. And now, suddenly, an ordinary family holiday. Your mother already sent invitations to everyone, she hissed through her teeth, to a party at our house without even asking us. Come on, Serge reached for the remote. Mom just wants to celebrate. No, she grabbed the remote from his hands. You'll listen to me now. We've taken out a 30-year mortgage, we have a car loan, and we just finished the renovation. We don't even have proper dishes for such a crowd. We can use disposable ones. Disposable ones? Helen threw up her hands. On New Year's Eve, so your mother can later tell everyone what a lousy hostess I am. At that moment, her phone beeped with a message. Her mother-in-law had sent a detailed list of dishes that must be on the table to not embarrass themselves in front of the relatives. Wonderful, Helen handed the phone to her husband. Look at this, your mother already made the menu. And notice, everything is expensive and complicated to prepare. Serge glanced at the list. Well, Mom knows a lot about festive tables. Serge, wake up. How does he not understand? How can he be so blind? We can't afford it. We have a mortgage, a car loan, the renovation bills are not all paid yet. Lena, it's New Year's, we can splurge once a year. Splurge? Helen started counting on her fingers. Food for 23 people from this list. At least 30,000 plus drinks, plus table setting, plus gifts for all the children, and there are 8 of them, at least 60,000. We'll find a way, Serge said uncertainly. Where? That eternal optimism of his, as if money materializes out of thin air. In what place? Do you have a stash I don't know about? Serge remained silent, and that silence was more eloquent than any words. In the stillness, the sound of the TV in the next room was distinctly heard. The football match, so important to her husband, was now so insignificant. You know what? Helen stood up decisively. Since your mother took it upon herself to organize a holiday in our home, let her finance it, declared his wife. Lena, come on, Serge grimaced. That's not nice. And what's nice? Plunging a young family into new debts for the sake of showing off to relatives. The phone beeped again. This time, her mother-in-law sent a detailed seating chart, noting where the Christmas tree should stand, where to set the main table, and where to create the kids' corner. Wonderful, Helen threw up her hands. She's even distributed the seating, and we of course never intended to place the tree exactly where she drew. Serge tried to hug his wife. Honey, don't get worked up. Mom just wants to help. Helen stepped back. How does he not understand? Or does he not want to understand? Help? Seriously? Then why didn't she offer financial help, or at least ask if we could handle such a holiday? At that moment, the doorbell rang. Valentina Petrovna stood on the threshold with huge bags. Lena, she chirped, entering the apartment. I thought we should start preparing. I brought molds for jelly fruit bowls. Why isn't the Christmas tree up yet? I sent you the layout. Helen exchanged glances with her husband and slowly said, Valentina Petrovna, we need to talk. Of course, dear. Her mother-in-law pulled a notebook out of her bag. I have another list. No, Helen said firmly, no lists. Serge and I want to decide ourselves how and with whom to celebrate New Year's. A heavy pause followed, thickening the air in the room. But I've already informed everyone, her mother-in-law said, flustered. Hannah looked at the guest list and felt the panic rising inside her. 23 people, and they were all close relatives. Her mother-in-law, Patricia, insisted on celebrating New Year's with the whole family in Hannah and Jack's new apartment. You understand, dear, your apartment is the largest among all our relatives. Plus, it's time to show everyone how you've settled in. Patricia's words echoed in her mind like an insistent alarm clock. The renovation, the mortgage, the loans. Hannah rubbed her forehead, trying to soothe the headache that was creeping up. For 3 months, she and Jack had been living on sandwiches, saving every penny to finish the apartment by winter. And now this. Jack, she called to her husband, who was engrossed in watching a football game in the next room. We need to talk seriously. What now? He responded, not taking his eyes off the screen. Jack, something in her voice made him pause the game and turn to her. We have to talk. Your mother sent out invitations without even asking us. 23 people, Jack, 23. So, it's just a family gathering, he shrugged. A family gathering? Hannah felt her irritation boiling inside. For 3 years, they had celebrated each holiday separately, he with his family, she with hers. And now, suddenly, it was a family gathering. Your mother already sent out the invitations, she said through gritted teeth, for a party at our house without even asking us. Come on, Hannah, Jack reached for the remote. Mom just wants to celebrate. No, she snatched the remote from his hand. You're going to listen to me now. We have a mortgage for 30 years, car loans, and we just finished the renovation. We don't even have proper dishes for such a crowd. We can use disposable ones, Jack suggested casually. Disposable ones? Hannah threw up her hands in exasperation. For New Year's, so your mother can tell everyone what an incompetent hostess I am. At that moment, her phone buzzed with a message. Patricia had sent a detailed list of dishes that had to be on the table to impress the relatives. Wonderful, she handed the phone to Jack. Look at this, your mother already made the menu, and notice it's all the most expensive and complicated dishes. Jack glanced at the list. Well, Mom knows how to plan a festive meal. Jack, wake up, she exclaimed. How can you be so blind? We can't afford this. We have a mortgage, car loans, and unpaid renovation bills. But it's New Year's once a year, Jack said uncertainly. We can manage somehow. Manage? Hannah began counting on her fingers. Food for 23 people from this list is at least $1,000, plus drinks, plus table settings, plus gifts for all the kids, 8 of them, at least $2,000. We'll find a way, Jack said weakly. Where? She demanded. Do you have a secret stash I don't know about? Jack's silence was more telling than any words. The only sound was the faint noise of the football game still playing in the next room. You know what? Hannah stood up decisively. Since your mother took it upon herself to organize the party in our home, let her finance it too. Hannah, come on, Jack grimaced. That's not nice. Nice? Is it nice to drive a young family into debt for the sake of impressing relatives? Her phone buzzed again. This time, Patricia had sent a detailed seating plan with notes on where the Christmas tree should be placed and where to set up the main table and the kids' corner. Wonderful, Hannah said, showing Jack the phone. She already assigned everyone their places, and we, of course, hadn't even thought about putting the tree where she suggested. Jack tried to embrace her. Sweetie, don't get upset. Mom just wants to help. Hannah pulled away. Help? Really? Then why didn't she offer financial help or at least ask if we could handle such a party? At that moment, the doorbell rang. Patricia stood on the doorstep with huge bags. Hannah dear, she chirped as she walked into the apartment, I thought it was time to start preparing. I brought molds for the jelly, fruit bowls, and why haven't you set up the tree yet? I sent you the diagram. Hannah exchanged glances with Jack and slowly said, Patricia, we need to talk. Of course, dear. Patricia pulled a notebook from her bag. I have another list here. No, Hannah said firmly, no more lists. Jack and I want to decide for ourselves how and with whom to celebrate New Year's. There was a heavy pause, as if the air in the room had thickened. But I already told everyone, Patricia said, her voice trembling. Exactly, Hannah said calmly. You informed everyone without consulting us, without asking if we were physically and financially ready for so many guests. Hannah dear, but it's a family tradition. Patricia's voice held the first notes of indignation. We've always gathered together. Traditions can change, Jack suddenly interjected. Mom, Hannah's right. We're still settling in. We have many expenses. Patricia sank into a chair. So you're refusing to host the family? What will I tell them? The truth, Hannah replied. That you rushed with the invitations without discussing it with us and that we're not going to ruin ourselves for your grand plans. Patricia turned pale. How can you talk to your elders like that? I just wanted. You wanted to show the relatives how rich and successful we are, Hannah interrupted. Or demonstrate how you manage our lives. Jack shifted uncomfortably but didn't say anything. Let's set the boundaries here, Jack, Hannah said. You're either on my side or you can celebrate New Year's with your mom and 23 relatives. Hannah, that's not fair, Jack protested, looking torn between his wife and his mother. I'm serious, Jack. If you can't stand with me on this, then you can go to your mom's for New Year's. Enough of these manipulations, Hannah cut in. We are perfectly capable of organizing our own holiday without being told what to do at every step. As Patricia began to cry openly, Jack looked more lost than ever. Maybe we can find a compromise? Compromise? Hannah said sharply. We have compromised for 3 years, following your mother's every whim. She remembered the first time she met Jack's family, how hard she tried to fit in, baking Patricia's favorite pie using her recipe, listening patiently to advice on how to iron Jack's shirts properly. But the hints and criticisms had started immediately after the wedding. Why don't you wear the ring I gave you? Maybe you should move closer to us? Jack loves fish soup, and you never make it. Jack stood in the hallway, looking helpless. What are you waiting for? Hannah demanded. Go comfort your mother. Hannah, come on, he pleaded. Let's not make this difficult. No, Jack, it's you who makes things difficult by always running to your mother whenever things get tough. Hannah's phone buzzed with messages from Jack's relatives, each more accusatory than the last. How could you hurt Patricia? We thought you were a decent girl. She deleted them one by one, then opened the closet and pulled out a suitcase. Amusing, she thought. 3 years ago, she packed this suitcase to move in with Jack. Now it seemed it was time to leave again. Later that evening, Jack returned, looking disheveled and smelling of Patricia's pie. Mom is crying, he said from the doorway. She says you insulted her. What do you say, Jack? Hannah asked, looking at him with new eyes, seeing him as someone who drifted along, hiding behind others. Hannah, why make things complicated? Let's just apologize and have the party. Do you even hear yourself? She asked. You're more concerned with keeping your mother happy than with what we need as a couple. Jack tried to approach her, but she stepped back. I love you, he said, almost desperately. Love? What did you do today, Jack? You ran to your mother as soon as things got hard and came back with her solution. Mom suggests, Jack began. Again, Mom suggests. What about you, Jack? Do you have any suggestions, decisions, actions? I'm trying, Hannah, really. No, you're not, she replied, exhausted. For 3 years, I hoped you would grow up and take responsibility, but you're still clinging to your mother. You're having a breakdown, Jack said. Let's talk tomorrow. This isn't a breakdown, Jack, it's clarity, Hannah said. I believed we were building a life together, but I was just trying to fit into your life with your mother. She took her suitcase and headed for the door. Hannah, wait. Jack called after her. No, Jack, I'm leaving. I'll stay with a friend and then find an apartment. What about the mortgage, the apartment? Jack asked, still clinging to practicalities.